you think of any differences in personality between Asians and Caucasians?
I tend to notice that Asians, whether it's due to the language barrier or their own culture, that they tend to be more inclusive to themselves. Not to say Caucasians aren't, because they definitely are, but I see Asian students tend to more like to stick around other Asian students.
In my experience, Asians tend to be more dedicated, but other than that,
Dedicated
to what they're doing, like their school or their work.
As horrible as it is, I would say that Caucasians are a little more vindictive.
I don't even know what that word is.
Mean, evil,
okay.
cruel. Asians tend to stay more in their cliques. They have their little groups that they kind of all hang out with and have like a little family.
Not specifically, no. Just different ethnicities.
Well, if you're talking about like different ethnicities, especially within, it's seen that Asian Americans, Asian nationals, they're seen as more of an ideal minority, sort of like dealing with they're, I guess, from what I've studied in the courses that I've taken as Nigerians, they're seen as the ones that are closest to white students or white population, just the different standards of living, the employment and education.
So like the model minority.
Yeah, they're the model minority, yeah.
It's such a simple question, but a very complex answer. So we have, what comes to mind is the history of Asians or Asian Americans, which is two large communities, and there's some assimilation that goes on with the Asian community, and but they still have roots in their Asian ancestry, and so there won't ever be Caucasians, of course, and Caucasians will never be Asians.
Can you think of any movies that like starred an Asian actor?
That's actually funny. I actually work at the Culture Center in KCC, and we just actually had an event on this. But I think the biggest role would be Jackie Chan, but he portrays a lot of stereotypes that a lot of people associate.
Yeah.
Enter the Dragon, I think that has Bruce Lee in it. They're usually some kind of like smart person, like at least in American films, they're usually some kind of smart person, like some super genius or some really good at math or science or hacking or something. They're usually like the smart guy of the film.
Wait, Wendy Wu, Homecoming, Warrior, Korean Warrior, Disney made for TV, and Channel my favorite.
I'm gonna come up with like a karate movie. It's gonna be like Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan.
I was gonna say Jet Li. Wait, no, yeah, Jet Li.
Yeah. Not too imaginative.
Not stars. Stars? No, it's always like a side character like Lucy Liu.
I think it would be a lot of martial arts movies, and for the most part, those are the only ones that I think of, like Jackie Chan, Jet Li.
Harold and Kumar.
There was that really famous Asian guy was in Godzilla as the professor recently.
Well, the ones that come to mind are, well, I think of the men, because I think maybe I'm a male, and Jackie Chan and the Bruce Lee, the karate movies, and also, now that I give it some more thought, Lucy Liu and some of the Asian women also, who are sexualized as far as, or they're either sexualized or they're considered the dragon lady type of character stereotype.
Not except for the very stereotypical ones, like martial arts ones. Karate Kid. They're depicted as like side characters, really, not like a main protagonist, but usually some comedic side character, or even a villain.
Asian men are usually portrayed as very serious, and sometimes, really like strong and stuff like that. And Asian women are usually depicted more as a kind of like secondary character. Like I don't know off the top of my head any movies that have a lead role female Asian character, but I probably haven't seen enough.
I think, okay, if I was getting real stereotypical generalizing it, it'd be like women would be like a sex figure.
Yeah.
it's not usually a dominant female sex figure.
They would be
it's more submissive.
a submissive, and the male would be the more, shit. What's the word? They would be more dominating, and the more alpha male. That's the word, alpha male. There we go. Bring home the bacon.
The bring home the bacon? Wait, the males or the Asian males?
Asian males. They're usually the ones who control the family. They're the head of the family.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
Asian men are seen as I guess when it comes to like the like different fighting scenes, they're seen as more aggressive. But before that, they're a lot more passive. They're very quiet. I guess it's just so I think through the movies they highlight different aspects of Asian characteristics. Asian women, I think they're seen as very, again, passive and very, like, what's it called? In a sense, obedient in terms of, like, respecting men and their elders. And I think, for the most part, that's the roles that they portray in the movies, or even how people see each other outside of the movies.
Do you think that they only cast them as like the martial arts fighter because that's just a stereotype, another stereotype of Asian Americans or Asians?
I think that not always, but that you that's true. But that's a big part of the roles that they play. Either martial arts, or they're very smart and nerdy, very quiet, and they're not generally in the main role.
Have you noticed if like that's all they ever cast as? Is like an action? Why do you think that is?
Because of the stereotypes that the belief that all Asians are really good at martial arts.
Have you ever noticed that Asian women have been hypersexualized and Asian men kind of be desexualized a little bit?
Yeah.
What do you notice that in, like, what media?
Mostly in movies and television shows and stuff. The only one that I remember from like movies is Charlie's Angels.
Oh, how?
With Lucy Liu.
She's very sexual and...
Yeah.
There's that idea of the controlling image of women of color in the media, and it's a way to control and keep certain systems of oppression in place.
Why do you think they're usually portrayed in this kind of like stereotypical, roles in movies, like with Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee doing kung fu movies and Dragon Ladies? Or why do you think that kind of is?
I think that's a symptom of our society's wanting to categorize people, and it's a survival mode. But it's stereotyping and categorizing, which is what we humans do naturally. But unfortunately, we don't complete the cycle and question those stereotypes on a continual basis.
I think a lot of it comes from the history of the United States, back from World War II and stuff, and even now with our competitive economic competition with China. It's a lot of the Asian countries. We don't really have a good historical experience from them, and I think a lot of that kind of hatred is happening still kind of in our society.
I think it's because people already understand it. They don't have to explain. Like, if you have it that way, you don't have to explain somebody's background. You don't have to explain to them why they have it, why they're acting different, because, go on stereotypes. Everybody understands it. As horrible as it is.
I think, most TV shows are built on just easy concepts that we can relate to, and that's why we're all watching them, because we can relate to them. And so it's easiest to not have complicated concepts. We can enjoy something that's easy for us to understand.